Gillian Keegan.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank very much to my honourable friend from Faversham and Mid-Kent for raising this important issue, which does, I think, affect a lot of us here. And I've visited both residential and leisure park homes in my constituency, and under the correct management, there is no doubt that they can be well-run sites, great places to live or go on holiday. However, some of them are in the wrong hands, and bad practice can creep in at leisure sites, and they're creating an exploitative way of doing business, in my view. And the lack of regulation certainly is making the situation worse. During my visit to a leisure park site in my constituency, I heard accounts from many constituents of maintenance disputes and intimidation and harassment by site management and changing the rules. So one day you could have an outdoor shed and then you couldn't the next day, or you could have plant pots and then suddenly you could only have 3 plant pots, and all the rest were smashed. And they were quite threatening, and the residents were definitely frightened. So even more concerning were the reports about mis-selling of leisure homes as permanent accommodation and unclear contractual arrangements on reselling and pitch fees. Many stories had been people have been sold a dream of selling up, buying a holiday home with the emphasis on the site being open for most of the year. I was even handed photographic evidence of signage showing it was an ideal starter home and encouraging people to come and move into these starter homes. And in places like Chichester, where the average house price is over £300,000, that is an attractive offer for many. And of course, all they think is they have to go on holiday for 2 weeks, but most of us do. Also, many of the residents were only given part 1 of their licence agreement during the sales process, with part 2, the terms and conditions, all being made available after the sale, or in some cases never supplied. And one gentleman I spoke with explained that he'd signed his contract despite not seeing all the small print, because after divorcing, he just needed to find somewhere to live really quickly. So from those examples and those shared by members here today, it's evident that there's a widespread problem of holiday park sites being used residentially, with owners not adequately protected under consumers' rights legislation. And of course, local authorities do have enforcement powers, but you know, they are concerned about using them because they know that this is going on, and they're concerned about creating a problem that they can't solve because there are not enough homes if people are made homeless. And of course, the National Caravan Council, if they're a member, can also be used to raise concerns. However, not all are members, and in some cases, one park home I recently visited, one site, they had left the NCC, so there was no cause for redress. So where the owners are guilty of mis-selling, the balance of power is completely in their favour. And residents have no permanent address, no local connection to the area possibly before, and that can lead to problems registering on the electoral roll, accessing local services or receiving benefits that they need. And residents are often too scared to come forward with complaints because they are all too aware of their vulnerable position. They're almost stateless in a way, you know, they don't have any rights. And essentially they are fearful of being evicted and made homeless. Consumer rights legislation does not offer these grey area residents the same level of statutory protection, such as against harassment or rights over information such as utility charges, that those living on the residential sites or in ordinary homes do have. So I fully support the calls we've heard from the Mobile Homes Act 1983 to be extended to leisure homeowners, and which will go a long way, I hope, to even up the imbalance and protect the many vulnerable and often elderly residents.